Hi guys. Today we're working on some little cute squirrels. Oh my gosh, these are so adorable. I love them. So let me show you how I colored these up because I added a little bit of a fun twist to them, I think. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with EOO, and what I'm going to do is shadow map a little bit so I don't lose my pattern. And what I'm going to do here is start here at the eye and come down and color this part of his face. I'm going to repeat that on this side. I've decided his little muzzle is going to be this lighter brown too, and his belly. Basically, I'm just marking the areas where I want them to be light. I'm also going to come in here on his tail and put some light in here. And while I have this out, I'm going to do it on this squirrel as well. There's a lot less of the squirrel showing, so he'll be a little faster to color. There's no belly area. But I think one of the things we do when we're coloring is we forget to leave room for our highlight. If you're one of those people, this is a great trick to help you remember that the area that's light right now is going to be our highlight. So now I can come back in with my E18, which is my darkest of the browns, and I can start flicking that in. I'm going to put a little bit more in that little nook there on the tail, and I'm going to start blending that out with my E15. And I want to put a little bit of the E15 over here on the side because I want the whole far side of that squirrel's tail to be dark. Now this is E13. Still just continuing with that flicking. But see how I've left that light, and I've kind of, it helps me gauge how much room I need to leave. So now when I come in with my E11, I know exactly where I need to go. What, like right up into that EOO. And I guess a little bit of that EOO shows, not a ton. I can use the EOO to come in and blend this out just a little bit, soften that line between the E11. And how cute is that? So now we have a little squirrely tail. I don't like this spot right up here. It's goes from dark to light a little too fast. So I'm going to come in here with my E15 and add a little bit more dark and blend that out just a little bit. So it kind of has a more of a natural curl, I think. Yeah, I like that better. I don't want him to look like a stripe. I want it to look natural, the way his fur is. So now I'm back with my E18, and I'm going to put that on the very top of his head here. I'm also going to fill in his nose while I have it. And now I'll do a little bit on the bottom of his arms. Some right here in his leg. The good news is the rest of the squirrel is pretty easy to color, I think. It's just that tail where we really want to get that definition. This is the E13. And remember, when you're coloring in narrower spaces, you want to hold your marker closer to vertical. When it's wider spaces, you want to hold it farther back so that you're working with the broader side of your marker. All right, so we still have E11 to do, and this is where we're going to blend it in with the face here. So we're just going to come up, blend that in a little bit. We can put a little bit of E11 here on the sides, around the little tuft of fur. and then use EOO to blend that out. And now we have a squirrel with a lighter face. Just kind of gives them a little bit more interest than just a plain brown squirrel, a little more personality. Come in and I'm adding a little bit more E11 here on this side of his face. And I'll blend it out with the EOO. I think that looks a little more natural. So this part of his face is a little bit darker than his muzzle, which I like. All right, I'm going to grab R20. And add a little bit of pink to his cheeks just to give him a little bit of life. And then I think I've decided I'm going to come in and do his eyebrows in E18. And I think I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown in his ears with E11. And I'm going to do that, I will do that little tuft on his head in E11. So there we go. So now we've got one of our squirrels done. So I'm going to push him aside and I'm going to do this one while we're at it. So this one I'm going to start with my E18 right along the top of his head, just like we did before. I'm going to put a little bit on his hand and his thumb. I'm using a lot less on this one because I still want to have all that shading, but I don't want to go too nuts here with the darks, I guess. So I'm pushing that out with E15. This is E13. And E11. I probably am going to have to go back in and work these colors a little bit. I forgot about his nose when I was doing this. But that's okay. That's what the beauty of copics is. You can go back and work your colors until you get it the way you want it. So I'm going to darken the sides of his face up a little bit. And I'm going to go in with EOO and soften all those. Putting EOO inside his ears for now. I think his tail looks pretty good. I'm gonna work on his face a little bit. I'm gonna come in with E15. I want to darken up this section here in his nose. Kind of forgot to do that as I was going through. I think it's just going to give him a little bit more interest here. What do you think, guys? Is he cute? All right, I'm going to just put a little bit of pink in his ears. Flick a little pink in with his cheeks. Awesome. And now I can put all these colors away. All right, so while we're here, let's work on this basket. So the basket, I'm going to start off with E47, and you always color in the direction that wood grows. So this board here runs horizontal. So I'm going to add a little bit of just like, lines, because boards have got some, grain in it. So it's going to be darker along the edges, and now I'm going to come in with E44 and start flicking that through. Add a little bit more of the lines. This E43. Now we have our top of our basket. So now I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to do the same thing for these other 4 boards. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm putting down a little bit of the E47 in the deepest, darkest shadows here. And I'm also going to put a little bit here on the top of these boards. I'm kind of just doing like a little bit of a zigzag pattern here. Just real little bit, because I don't want it to be all dark. Then I'm coming down with E44. This is E43. Now, I didn't like how it kind of looked a little bit like a stripe there, so I just blended that out just a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. These markers move pretty easily, so they're nice to work with. All right, so now we're going to come back to this guy while we got him out, and I'm going to use my E44, and I'm going to clear the tops of my acorns, my caps. That's all E44, and so let's come in with some E43 and flick that out. And lastly, let's do some E41. Let's skip down to E41. Might go back in and add a little bit of E42. I didn't like exactly how light that got. It's up to you though, you decide. All right, so now we can put this set of colors away. And while we're doing this, let's finish up these acorns. So this is E33. And I switched the browns because I wanted them to have a different tone. You could have switched, if you don't have these, use whatever browns you have. Don't, you know, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but I wanted a warmer bottom, and the E40s are kind of more of a ash color, and these are definitely warm. They have some red in it, I think. Very cool. So now we can set this guy aside. Let's come back over here. And I think what we need now is some reds. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually start with the yellow. I want each of my apples to have a highlight. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to add just a little swoosh of yellow to each of my apples. Or at least, I don't think I'm going to do this one in the back, but all the other ones. This way I have some idea of where I want that highlight to be. The same idea as that squirrel, and I don't go too far. And I want my highlight to have a yellow tinge to it, because I like when apples have that like two-tone you know, look to them. So this is, I started with R29, this is R24, and I'm just starting to blend this out. And I'm going on to R14, pushing that red up. And I'm purposely kind of making this like an awkward, you don't want it to be a line. It's you kind of want it to be uneven. And then I'm going to go over that a little bit with RO2, and that kind of dulls that yellow just enough, gives you that highlight, but it still has a little something something there that lets you know that That apple has got a highlight, I guess. So I'm just repeating that step. The first one was R29, and I'm putting a little bit of R24 all around the apple. It gives it that round look. And now I'm just blending that up. That's R14, and this is R02. Okay, R29. So where the darkest part of the apple is where you start, and then you start blending your colors up. Closing in that highlight a little bit, it's too big. You don't want your highlight to be huge either. You want it to be, it's just what it is. It's a very small part of the apple. It's just where the light hits it first. All right, this is R29. I'm going to do a couple apples up here because they're smaller. Might do this whole apple back here in R29 because he's back there in the shadow. This is 24. Remember with the 24, I kind of come around a little bit to give the apple some shape. R14. And then lastly, R02. Very cool. All right, let's get these last little bits. I love fall colors. They're so fun to work with. And this image was just so cute. I hope you guys like him as well. He made me smile. Most of your apples should be done in R24. Actually, let's go a little bit farther than that. R24 is the color of the apple. The other colors, R29 is the shadow, and R14 and R02 are just helping us fade it down into that highlight. Okay, look at that. So I'm pretty content with my apples, so let's put our reds away. Okay, for my greens, I grabbed G46 and G43. You could also add G40 into the mix, but I don't think you need to do that. And on the leaves, I'm adding in just dark green a little bit on the vein of the leaf and at the base. And there's not a huge difference between G43 and G46. They blend really easy together, but I like how the tip of the leaf is a lighter shade of green. Adds just that contrast. And you can just flick back into it because we're only doing 2 colors. And these two blend pretty easily, so. Awesome, this is coming together. E47, and I forgot to do the stems of my apples when I had that out. So I'm going to come in and do the apple stems, just so they're no longer white, because that was weird. And it's not going to matter a whole lot, because I think I'm going to go over this, but I'm going to add a brown nose and brown eyebrows. And I did that in E18, but they're not that different, so I'm not worried. For the band on this barrel, I decided to make mine like metal. I'm not really sure what color they really are in real life. I just didn't want to do it brown. We had enough browns going on here. So I used C5 and then flicked it in with C3 and then finished it off with C1. But they might be wood too. I'm not really sure. I know sometimes in barrel making they make like that ring. I don't know. who knows? If you know, let me know, because I really don't know what color that band is. But it looks okay in gray, so in Squirrel Land, they use gray for their barrel making. All right, and the last step with this is I'm going to take W3 and I'm going to ground my image. So right wherever the image touches the ground, I'm going to put in W3. And then I'm going to come in with W1 and start blending that out. W1 is definitely going to have a wider area than W3. And then lastly, and because this is so small, I'm just going to fill it in with my W0. I know that was a question I got the last time, like how far do you carry your ground? And it depends so much on the image. So, but with that circle, I think it looks natural to do the whole bottom. And we don't want to forget this little guy. So just a little bit of W3, and I might finish this off with W1, and we'll call that done. All right, and the last part of this card is assembly. And I already stamped my greeting. It's called balance, and then on the inside it says, some days you eat salad and go to the gym, some days you eat cupcakes and refuse to put pants on. I just thought that was silly. I'm going to put this guy on this card. If you didn't like that, and you could always glue your cover piece on top of this, and that would get rid of those sentiments so that you could use it for something else if you like. But I really like that sentiment, so I'm going to leave that on the inside. There we go. There are our 2 finished fall cards. I really hope that you guys learned something about shadow mapping from this video, and I hope you give it a try. Please, if you do, send me pictures of what you colored. I always love to see what you guys are working on. And I will catch you next time for another video. Have a crafty day, guys.